thanks for being here and taking over.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
So it's been great taking courses with Neil. He's really allowed me to explore my passions, and then actually he's let me teach a few of his classes. One was actually an MBA class, and I'm an undergraduate, so that was really cool for me to be able to kind of go and pretend like I know what I'm talking about in front of a bunch of people that are much older than me. And so today I want to kind of share some of my ideas and insights, and I want to get everyone thinking about kind of the future of what recycling could be from this idea of waste management moving away towards more strategic materials management, and what that might look like, and what are some kind of current trends and different ideas and things that are happening in the marketplace that you might be able to capitalize on and start including in kind of your vision of the future. So very excited. Thanks for having me today. So to get things started, I'm going to frame up where we are today by talking about recycling as waste management, and kind of talk about where are the inherent issues in that kind of view of the world. Although it's a great initiative, recycling is, as all of you here know, it's very important. I commend everyone here for really taking the time to come to the conference and doing what you do. But what I want to propose is this whole new idea again of recycling as a way to strategically manage materials for organizations, as opposed to being kind of at the end of the pipeline in the consumption process. So we start with this really basic idea: manufacturing, consumption, and disposal. So one aspect of traditional manufacturing is this idea of monstrous hybrids. So as many of you know, when you combine organic materials with technical materials, non-organic materials, in products, they become these hybrids of things that you can't really do anything with at the end of their life after they leave the consumer. So they're a really big issue when thinking about traditional manufacturing and manufacturers not looking at the end of the pipeline and manufacturing these products that at the end of their life really are not able to have much value and have to go to the landfill. Another issue of traditional manufacturing is this idea of planned obsolescence. So anyone here realize that about every year and a half, anyone own like an iPhone or an iPad or an Apple product, they seem to break every about year and a half, kind of like a repeated clockwork. One of the reasons is that a lot of companies are incentivized to actually design products that are going to fail because they want you to buy more products. And so just so happens that they're usually timed up with the newest product release. So this idea of planned obsolescence in the manufacturing process is driven by consumerism, and it's driven by me, the product producer, wanting to sell more products. I'm going to design products in a way that's going to make you buy more and more, regardless of what effect that has on the environment, landfill space, and recycling downstream.
It is the newest.
Even newer. Everything else is obsolete.
I just bought this one! What the? 3D.
Oh, wait. Oh, 4D TV? Stupid.
You got the wrong TV, silly head.
The new buyback program. You buy it now, we buy it back when the new thing comes out.
I had a great ad here about perceived obsolescence. So the difference between perceived and planned is perceived obsolescence is what marketers, kind of like myself, will have you believe that, great, you had the new 3D TV? Well, too bad, there's a new 4D TV that you need to go get. And you need to keep getting new and new products because your products are old and outdated. And this is another tactic and mechanism that a lot of firms use to incentivize consumers to increase consumption and get to this level that we have today of hyperconsumption. So this ad actually was going to show some of those different tactics they use. It was for the Best Buy buyback program, where Best Buy says they'll buy back your old technology if you just so happen to want to get the new one. But unfortunately, the YouTube clip is not working. This is another great example of this, is that we are trained as consumers that, especially in the electronics aspect of our consumption, that the old bulky item is old, and they keep doing minor design tweaks to different fashion, different cars, different products to make us feel like we don't need them anymore and that we need to get the newest model. And again, we have this disposable culture because at the end of the day, firms are pushing products to consumers because that's how they make money. For every new product sold, they're going to make money. And so they're not necessarily trying to sell you items that are going to be beneficial for you in the long term, but they really want to just gain short-term profits. And then some of the issues with traditional disposal is consumers really lack the knowledge that you really need to be able to dispose of a lot of products, especially the more technical products we have. For example, I personally have a really big issue in how I dispose of batteries. I'm not exactly sure how to do that. I know a lot of people just throw them away. I know they're not supposed to just directly go straight to the landfill, but a lot of people don't know exactly what to do about that. And so when you give ownership of products to consumers and you leave them responsible for the disposal, the right disposal mechanisms may be there. You might design the right process or the right waste stream to deal with some of these materials. Unfortunately, there's a huge educational piece that you need to build on top of this to make sure that consumers are actually utilizing and leveraging the different opportunities that you've given them. And then products aren't designed to be recycled at the end of the day. Most products do not have that end use in mind. The life cycle of the product is not necessarily considered by most manufacturers because, again, they're so disconnected from the process. And so there's this really big issue in which transition of ownership goes from the producer or the manufacturer of goods to consumers, and then consumers are left to deal with disposal. So again, with recycling, we do have a process of diverting things from landfill, and then again, putting it back into the life cycle of the material and making it go back through the process. However, it's an afterthought as opposed to the forethought when you were designing products. And so that's where I think that we'll never get to true sustainability when we're thinking of recycling as a waste management strategy. We need to think more outside the box, and we need to think of what might be new ways of consuming that will enable recycling to have better incentives lined up. Because right now the incentives are against us. The incentives are against us. We're not aligned, both by the manufacturer and the consumer, to really be positioned in a way that we're going to be able to leverage these really good opportunities and technologies and processes that everyone here is working so great to master, because the odds are stacked against us. So again, this is one view of the world. There's a great video online, if you haven't seen it already, called The Story of Stuff. And they call this the golden era of consumption. That is the drum in which beats, and it's the cadence to which our entire system works. And I think that's true. Consumerism is our culture. We are a consumeristic society. But does it have to be a bad thing? Can we leverage consumerism, and can we design a system in a way that will actually allow us to have more good than harm? Can we kind of change the way the arrow points and where ownership of products is left to consumers? So what models are out there? What options do we have to change the way not only we think about consuming products, both as consumers and as companies, but also how might that change the way we think about producing them? And how might this new normal be a future of abundance as opposed to a future of scarcity? So I have a video I'd like all you to watch.
Living systems have been around for a few billion years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food, energy is provided by the sun, things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components, and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, no resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers, and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
So if, as many of you noticed, that is a nonprofit out of the UK. The British voiceover wasn't just stylistic choice. And they're really focused on enabling the circular economy. And so I think that video really kind of showcases some of the ideas we're going to jump into in the second half of the talk. And then we're going to play with those ideas together in a great workshop this afternoon. I've been making a great toolkit for you guys. There's a lot of great different materials you can use to articulate your ideas in teams, and we're going to get together and then share those with each other. So I encourage you to stay this afternoon. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you get to really have a really cool time exploring some great ideas. So there's two main kind of core concepts that come from two different schools of thought, and these are two books that have really influenced me, and I encourage you all to read, especially Cradle to Cradle. For those of you who haven't read Cradle to Cradle, it's a great book to take a look at. And then also, What's Mine is Yours, and this is about the collaborative consumption. So to start, access is greater than ownership. You don't really want to own a drill or a power drill. You want the whole that it provides. You don't necessarily want a car, you want transportation. You don't necessarily want a hotel room, you want the experience that it provides. So how might you be able to design consumption experiences that take that into account, where I have access to products, goods, and services without actually having the need to own said products, goods, and services? So they call this the sharing economy, the bartering economy. There's a lot of different things people are calling this, but it's a really big trend. Millennials today are increasingly not needing to own a car, not needing to own a house or apartment. Part of that behavior is being driven by the cloud and this whole idea that my things that I consume can exist there and I don't have to necessarily have them on a physical device. On the other hand, Cradle to Cradle is this idea that waste equals food, that the entire concept of waste is inherently a design flaw. If your system has waste, it means it's a poorly designed system. And if you look at nature, like the video talked about, nature has no waste. Every process is waste, as another process is food. And so how might we design an economy and consumption system that takes that into account in a way in which there is no need to divert things from landfill because we aren't sending things to landfill. So we're not trying to optimize a broken system. We're trying to design a system that is inherently abundant as opposed to scarce. So a great example of access versus ownership and collaborative consumption is this service called Zipcar. Anyone here heard of Zipcar or know about Zipcar? Great, so many of you do. For those who don't, Zipcar is a car sharing platform where you subscribe as a member to the service, and then you have access to cars, a whole fleet of cars, anywhere you want. You go on your smartphone, you can see a map of all the available smart cars in an area. That's around the White House in Washington, D.C., where Zipcar actually has a very, very big and strong following. And then you drive the car, you pay per hour of usage, Zipcar pays for the gas, and then you park the car in any one of Zipcar's locations. So what's really cool about this is that it's inherently actually much more convenient than owning a car. So for example, I want to go to the bar. I can drive my Zipcar to the bar, park it, and then take a cab home, versus having to deal with other aspects that can be a troublesome aspect there. Yes, go ahead. Well, because at times, no, I'm just kidding. So, and my mom's in the audience too, so we always have to keep things PG. But it's a great example, and so one of the coolest aspects of this Zipcar example is that we can really think about how might we vertically integrate Zipcar, and we'll talk about that in a second. So then we have this whole idea of waste equals food. And so in this concept of waste equals food, there's really two metabolisms. So we have the biological metabolism and the technical metabolism. And this is essentially saying that there needs to be two waste streams. There shouldn't be all these different waste streams that we have. We need two. Technical nutrients that are not commonly found in nature, like metals, minerals, alloys, and then biological nutrients that are in nature and can return to nature and give value to nature when they are returned to nature. For example, different plant-based materials, cardboard, things of that nature. And so, like we talked about earlier, one of the issues with this whole idea of a linear consumption cycle is that manufacturers tend to combine these together in products, and they don't think of the end use in mind, which then you can never separate them, and then the whole system breaks apart. So it's this preemptive thinking about taking the technical and the biological nutrients as separate waste streams and making sure we keep adding value to the technical nutrients once we take them out of the soil, and then also keep leveraging the abundance of biological nutrients that we have. So essentially, these two nutrient cycles can break down into two categories: consumption products, which are true consumption products, where I consume and then put that back to nature. So imagine designing all food packaging that when I'm done with it, it can be similar to like a banana peel is and return to nature, compostable. All CPG products, imagine that I can design a shampoo that instead of having to treat wastewater because I have too many phosphates and too many issues with the shampoo in the wastewater stream, what if it added value to the ecosystem as opposed to subtracted from it? How might we design products like that? Also, on the other hand, true product as a service aspect. So as the video talked about, and we talked about more here, never actually owning the products in which have these technical nutrients. Because we are not the ones who are technically able to deal with the nutrients after we're done with them. I have no idea how to recycle my laundry machine. I don't know how to take it apart and do the different parts. Why should I have to have that as a burden on me, the consumer? Why can't Whirlpool sell me a laundry machine as a service and then take back that laundry machine and give me a new one when I need one, vertically integrate, and then take apart that laundry machine, salvage all the technical nutrients, and then return the biological nutrients to the earth? So as you see, we're starting to shape this whole idea of this framework, of this way of thinking about consumption that's not a zero-sum game. It adds value in multiple areas. And disposal isn't an issue because it's inherently designed in a way that we deal with that up front in the forefront. So back to the Zipcar example. So this is one of my favorite interesting things. So idling capacity. Cars, when you're not driving them, are still cars, and they're still valuable. The problem is the average person only drives their vehicle about 5% of the time. So for, say, 24 people, a fleet of cars, they need, at 5% utilization, you need 24 cars. We're only driving them maybe an hour a day, half hour a day. That car is still valuable. It has this idling capacity. Now, organizations are really good at leveraging that. If you have excess capacity at a plant, a firm has that, they're going to find new ways of harnessing that. Consumers don't necessarily have a way of doing that with consumer goods. However, Zipcar, the average utilization of a car in a Zipcar platform is around 40%. So that car is getting utilized a lot. So you need 8 times fewer as many cars servicing the same amount of people. Now this example is a little skewed because you need a critical mass in order for the actual idling capacity and the Zipcar system to work. But it's an example of not only can we change the way we consume, we can actually create less products that need to be consumed because we're able to share these and leverage the idling capacity of these platforms. And then let's rethink manufacturing. So like we said before, when I am the manufacturer and I'm using this product that I'm going to push the consumer and I make more money every time they buy a new product, I don't really care what the end life of the product is. But if I sell you a laptop as a service and that laptop is going back to me, and I know it is, and I can predict when it is, I'm going to design and manufacture that laptop to be completely disassemblable. Tricky word. I'm going to make it in a way that I'm going to leverage all the technical nutrients and biological nutrients that laptop has, because I'm going to gain value out of that. And not only that, if I know that I'm going to get the value of those precious materials back after I give it to the consumer, I can invest in more valuable materials in that product. It can be better performing for the consumer, and I can get those materials back. So think about it in terms of cars. Carbon fiber, aluminum, all these more expensive, higher performing, lighter, more fuel efficient materials all of a sudden become feasible because you're going to get the materials back. And so you design things in a way. This is actually a concept that was put forth, which I thought was really cool. And Herman Miller does a lot of this as well with their chairs. Again, and we said about design for sharing, changing incentives. So Zipcar, they don't necessarily make more money the more you buy the car. They make more money the more miles you drive. So all of a sudden, MPG is a critical factor in a world where Zipcar is vertically integrated and they're designing their own cars. Say Ford is vertically integrated with Zipcar. So all of a sudden, the manufacturer has an incentive to design a car that's not going to be planned obsolescence, because I want to get as much value out of that car and its life cycle as I can, so I'm going to design it so it's going to be the most effective car in its life cycle. And I'm also going to make sure it's the most fuel efficient car in its life cycle, because I'm making money based on miles driven, not product sold. So we shift that away from the consumer. Why should it be the consumer who's worried about miles per gallon? I think that we should change that. And then this whole idea of ownership of products remains with the producer. So people like this, do you want him responsible for disposing of goods? No. He doesn't know. I found a funny picture of a guy. He doesn't know. He doesn't know how to do that, right? And so when we allow consumers like that to be responsible, no wonder we're getting like 50% recycling rates on aluminum cans in Ohio. Consumers aren't that responsible. It's really hard to educate and train them. How might you be able to change the way we think about that? So this brings me to my point, and this brings me to this whole idea of, instead of thinking about recycling as this end of the pipeline waste management, what if we use these new trends and ideas to have recycling and you be a strategic part in the way in which companies create value for consumers? How might you be as critical to the design of products as someone in marketing, some of these other functions? And I think that's possible, and I think that's where we're going, and I think it's going to take some creative ideas in partnering with organizations, sharing your know-how and expertise in these different processes, in how to manage these materials, and showing, hey, look, if you did this, if you designed the car or designed the laptop in that way to be a product as a service system, to be disassemblable, to be able to separate the biological nutrients from the technical nutrients, and then leverage the value of that. If you can help be strategic with companies in that way, I guarantee you we're going to move to this more sustainable future faster. You're going to be successful, consumers are going to be successful, and the companies you work with are going to be successful. Because this makes much more sense. I think it's a great model. Now, there are some inherent challenges with giving over people's perceived ideas of ownership. There are some inherent challenges, like with idling capacity, where, okay, we make less cars, so does that mean we have less manufacturers, less jobs? Oh my God, I'm a job hater? No. It means we need to rethink these things and rethink What is value in a circular economy? How can we create it? How can that change the future of our country, of our planet, and really curb some of these really big issues we're having, as evidenced with Hurricane Sandy going on now? Thank you.